Hi, Daniel, and hello to everyone watching here. And this is Daniel, and I'm going to ask Daniel some questions about his journey with OTT. So, Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit of what was going on prior to you having OTT sessions, and what made you want to try OTT, which is rapid transformational therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I before I came into contact with Natalie, I was running my online business and I was having a lot of trouble with things like boundaries and setting expectations with clients. And it was stuff that I was working on in my mastermind, and I was working on it with a coach, but something just wasn't connecting. And so my coach, Dan, recommended that I talk to Natalie. And he told me a little bit about what RTT was. And once I met Natalie, I was really sold on the idea that this could be a better way to go about, making some changes and dealing with things that were holding me back.
Yeah, and so after you've done your session, then maybe tell a little bit about how was how did you feel throughout the sessions, and then what results did you get from those sessions?
Yeah, so the sessions are really, really amazing. I would say, I didn't know what to expect at first, but after my first session, I felt really great about how they're structured, what's included in that. Um, it reminded me a lot of like meditation and visualization, which is something I'm really familiar with. So I felt right at home in the sessions. And in terms of how I felt, emotionally during the sessions, we addressed a lot of things, and so there's a lot of emotional release, which was really,
Mhm.
really cathartic for me. It was stuff that I really needed to feel my way through. And in terms of how I felt after the sessions, you know it really made me feel like a lot lighter, like energetically a lot lighter, even physically lighter. Just having resolved some things within myself that have been hanging around for a long time.
Mhm. And I don't know if you've had any other, forms of therapy before. How would you compare RTT with other forms of therapy that maybe you've experienced in the past?
Yeah, it's a great question as well. I've done cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done some existential therapy, which was at a school that I was at. The therapist did, it was another form of talk therapy. Um, One of the things that I like about talk therapy is that you get really detailed. But where they differ is in the fact that RTT goes very specific and very deep, very fast. Traditional talk therapy, you get half an hour once a month with your therapist. RTT, the sessions are quite long. You get really into it. You get really focused on what it is that you want to address and heal. So it's a much more involved, much more personal experience in my case. And I would say that it also approaches the mind in a different way. Most regular therapy focuses on the conscious mind, and it focuses on how you're cognitively working through things, whereas RTT really focuses on the emotional side of it, the emotional body, the subconscious mind. And so it's really a completely different approach because it touches a different part of you that most therapeutic modalities just don't, because of the way that they're designed.
Mhm. So give an example of something that maybe, for you that was instant, like what changed instantly or maybe within a few days, for example, yeah, after one of those sessions that you've done.
Yeah, so the thing that sticks out to me the most is going back to that first example around boundaries. I was dealing with a lot of client communications that were difficult. And, I had people reaching out to me at night, just things that really were bugging me and causing me to feel anxious. And, before I had the RTT session, I was dealing with this and feeling like, okay, I have to respond to this person. And then as a result of doing that session, I immediately saw a change in the way I felt about receiving messages after hours and my need to respond to those. I immediately stopped responding to after hours messages. I updated my sort of code of communication with everybody on my team and with my clients. Now it's in my email signature, like when you can reach me, when you can't, and what to do, And so, I really felt empowered to enforce my boundaries, because that's kind of part of the thing that I learned too, is that, I was violating my own boundaries, not just, things were happening to me, things were happening and I was there.
Right.
So that was a really big shift for me.
Yeah, especially as an entrepreneur, like we can, service everybody at any time of the night or the day type of thing sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it kind of goes back to that idea of, when crisis occurs, put your oxygen mask on first before you try to help somebody else. And so RTT has definitely helped me get more in touch with myself, my body, my mind, and really prioritize my own self-care.
Right.
I focus on things outside of myself, which is, for me, it's huge, because I've always been a people pleaser, and I've always been, the guy that you can always count on. And I'm still that person, but I also am now being that person for me.
Right. Being more authentic within yourself.
100%.
Yeah. And so who would you recommend to, try RTT, or, would recommend working with me? What kind of person would that be that you would recommend?
Yes, that's a great question. I would say that if you are an entrepreneur, and you have a lot of things going on in your life, especially things like anxiety or difficulty being consistent with yourself, I think, that in of itself would be a great fit. I think if you are the kind of person who responds well to things like guided meditations, visualizations, the more hypnotic side of, the mind, I think that you would find yourself really at home. If that stuff really repels you, maybe RTT is not for you. And I'd also say, if you've experienced acute traumas, like for me, we had to deal with a lot of my trauma from childhood. And so, I'm pretty open about that in my personal life. So it's no secret that, I'm a survivor of abuse and a survivor of, I lost a family member to suicide. So if you have like these big things in your life that you don't know how to integrate, and you've tried, going through, therapy, you've gone to support groups, I mean, those are all great. But if you still need help with that, I think that RTT can give you some closure and some healing that you may not otherwise get.
Right. And last thing is, would you work with me again? And what was the best thing about working with me?
Yes, 100%. I would absolutely work with you again. The best thing about working with you is that you're always there. Like, you don't just get the RTT session and it's over. We have our follow-up calls and emails, and, you really care about your clients. And so I can't say that about everybody out there in the world, but I mean, you invest yourself into your client relationships. And so that for me is so important.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, to share your experience with others, because that's the intent here, is to give others the hope that, whatever you're suffering from, you don't have to continue to suffer from that. There is a way, if you're willing to put in the work, to go inside and dig deep. There's light at the end of the tunnel. So
yeah,
thank you.
It's not an automatic thing. You do have to do the work. I'll agree with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Daniel did a 90-day, package with me. We worked together for about 90 days also to get the results that he has experienced over these 3 months. And Daniel is a wonderful copywriter. He's very talented. He's very creative. So thank you, Daniel, for doing your work in this world as well.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you, Daniel. Take care.